In most of the civilized world, June is Pride Month. In North America, the estimated buying power of the so-called Pride community is estimated at $900 billion annually. And therein lies a problem. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life. On my weekly podcast, topics, discussions, stories from our lives.
Season 9, Chapter 5,
The Business of Pride.
This year's Pride Month has become particularly contentious, especially in polarized America, although similar problems can be found in Canada and Europe. More than any previous year I can remember, business and corporate supporting Pride are facing bigger backlash for their support, often from a loud, physically threatening minority. What's going on? Well, you know me, I like to break things down, look at all the parts, figure out how things run. The most high-profile backlash has been against Anheuser-Busch and their choice to put a 26-year-old trans influencer, Dylan Mulvaney, on a commemorative can of Bud Light. This played right into the hands of the right-wing culture warmongers who think do anything you want to your fruity candy. Skittles have supported Pride, but don't mess with our beer. Kid Rock took his knuckles off the ground just long enough to post a video of him shooting up cases of Bud Light with a high-powered assault-style rifle. If you can believe it, it gets worse. Staff at Target stores were physically assaulted and further threatened because the store sold rainbow swimwear and had featured rainbow pride signage. Now, Target has offered various lines of clothing during Pride for the last 10 years, but somehow this year it got physical. Target was also accused of marketing the swimwear to children. False. It was all adult clothing. Target had to issue a statement saying that some of their displays were coming down at certain stores for the safety of their own staff. Bud Light put two of their top marketing executives, allegedly responsible for the beer can, on leave of absence, with a corporate statement saying basically they just want to make good beer for everyone who drinks beer. Ah, how altruistic. Magnanimous, humanitarian. And the Nobel Prize for Peace goes to Bud Light. These companies tried to show support, but they weren't prepared for the pushback. In some cases, they received pushback for trying, and then pushback from the other side for backing down. Hey, you know what they say, when a donkey flies, you're not supposed to blame it for not staying up that long. A lot of big corporate names have stepped up in recent years to show support for the Pride community, generally only during Pride Month. How about Chick-fil-A? Only a couple of years ago, they were protested for having a right-wing religious executive who were homophobic and against gay marriage. This year, Chick-fil-A boycotts were suggested by the other side because the company had hired an executive in charge of diversity. Diversity. Well, you can't have that. Disney consistently gets a backlash because of gay or trans characters in their movies. Interesting that just started in the last few years, because you go back decades and decades, and we've never been sure what Goofy is. Disney also holds Pride Days at the park. Other companies that try and support the Pride community: PetSmart, Microsoft, Walmart. In somewhat of a surprise, at least to me, Walmart said that unlike Target, they would not be taking down anything and continue to sell Pride items on full display at all of their massive outlets. Applause, Walmart? I guess. Flying donkeys. The problem, as I alluded to in the beginning, is that it often just comes down to marketing. Social and cultural groups are herded by big business into target demographics and psychographics who have buying potential. The people on the inside, they see a struggle for acceptance and inclusion. Big business just sees dollar signs. Marketing, the manipulation of data, information, and knowledge for a greater monetary outcome. Yes, but only if it were about a higher moral cause. Preaching peace and acceptance, doing your part to make the world a better place. But that's not what it is. Coca-Cola was never about teaching the world to sing in perfect harmony. It was about selling more Coca-Colas. I'm not against that. I'm just saying let's understand it. Hey, while I'm here in the marketing department, I will look at the marketing of Pride itself. I've said this before, I've never cared for the word pride. I'm not religious, but I was raised to believe that pride was a sin. Don't think of it as sin against God, just a sin against humanity. Pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. Pride, lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy. Pride is usually number 1. The opposite of the 7 deadly sins are the 7 virtues. Again, not a religious thing. Chastity, charity, temperance, diligence, kindness, patience, humility. These are 7 direct opposites to the sins. Opposite of pride, humility. Pride, the sin, not the movement, gets us into trouble. It goeth before a fall. You know what I'm saying? I've used this phrase many times in many different podcasts. How about a little less pride in the things that make us unique and a little more humility to admit the things that make us the same? Well, no, Larry, that's no good. You know, you got to be proud. Yeah, you got to be proud of yourself, your family, your house and your yard, your team, your community, your country. Jeez. Wow. That is a lot of pride, man. By the time I get all the way down to my sexuality, I'm all prided out. And yet the community co-opted that word to label their movement. I get it. At least I think I do. You tell me. I'm thinking that if after being told that anything outside of being heterosexual was evil, a sin, wrong, something to be ashamed of, then you begin to come out, you find others like you gain some acceptance. Slowly you're able to live as you want to live. What would you feel exactly? Relief? Happiness? Sure. Pride? Well, yeah, I guess. Finally the chance to be proud. Pride in accomplishing that much when the odds were against you. But to name your entire cause after that, pride, I don't know, I don't think so. Naming yourself after a sin, well, you're just not helping your cause. Name yourself after a virtue. And which one? Well, I think patience. What about that, huh? The patience movement. You want tolerance? Name yourself after tolerance. Patience. It's got a ring to it. I know it's too late. It'll never change. Just suggesting. The other marketing issue, and I mean this strictly as a marketing issue, LGBTQ2? No, wait, it's LGBT2Q. No, hold on. LGBTIQA+. But then someone says, no, it's LGBTQ2S+, which then was countered with 2S, LGBTQIA+. Well, you see the issue from a marketing point of view. What is all of this? Well, L is lesbian, G is gay, which right away you got to ask, doesn't the G cover the L? Doesn't it? No? B is bisexual, T means transgender or transsexual. That's sometimes why they have 2 T. Although it can also mean transitioning. Q is queer or questioning, thus sometimes the 2Q. Not to be confused with the QE2, which is a boat. A is asexual, which is kind of like non-sexual, but they chose the A over the N, so that N can mean non-binary. I guess, yeah. I is intersex, 2S is two-spirited. Okay, is that everybody? Well, yeah, I guess, outside of the straight people. And you know what they say about heterosexuals, right? You heterosexuals, you never have to come out as heterosexual. Well, no, except if you're Catholic. As a male heterosexual raised Catholic, you've got to come out the minute you show an interest in girls, so that they can hold an exorcism and drill into you the pitfalls and hellfire of physical attraction that will only lead to eternal damnation unless you wait to get to a certain age and engage in a ceremony sanctioned only by the church itself. Yeah, all that. That is why I kept my heterosexuality a secret from my family for many years. But back to the Pride community, too many initials. It's a problem. Problem for marketing, and that's only if you care about marketing, and I think you should. A recent U.S. survey surprisingly showed that 8 out of 10 Americans, regardless of political stripe, are in favor of laws that protect against discrimination toward gay people. So who cares about marketing? Your movement is working. Well, hold on. It only goes so far. And this is true. In the survey, people were more accepting of the L and the G and the B, but not the T and the Q, or the I or the A or the N or the 2S. It was a little more difficult for those slow thinkers to compute. Listen, I understand everyone wants to be recognized for what they are. Your group is fighting for acceptance and inclusion, so you want to include everyone. But hey, not everyone's name can be in the title of the movie. Too many letters, numbers. Might as well throw a hashtag and an ampersand in there. I propose something simpler, the MGMP, or maybe the 2MGP, but let's start with the MGMP, community. Multi-gender, multi-preference. You could just say you're part of that community, and then we could discuss which one. LGBTQ, if you're a Q, which one? It's an easier sell. And while we're at it, your flag. Stick with the rainbow. Because if you've seen the new all-inclusive flag, it's no more just 7 stripes of color. There's a triangle in there now, a circle, I think, and there's some earth tones and pastels. Jesus, what is this thing? Simple flag, simple name. Marketing. Imagine if they tried to name the United Nations using letters from all 200 countries. Kingdom, Stateberg, Stanibud. No, it's the United Nations. Another problem with trying to include all the letters in the name of your movement, what happens when you discover or nuance some new genders? You just got to keep adding? No, MGMP, multi-gender, multi-preference. Oh, and by the way, we will discover a nuance, I'm sure. I mean, it's ridiculous to believe that there's only 2 genders in the world, identified by body parts, and the concept that one body part should only prefer the opposite body part. There's multiple genders, which is why, by the way, these days we have to be careful with pronouns. She is not a she, she is a they. Okay, I can do they. It's not too much to ask. Did you ever notice, though, that through all the pronouns and the gender classifications, the terms husband and wife still retain their male and female identity? Nobody seems to care about that. Like when 2 women get married, each has a wife. When 2 men get married, each has a husband. I guess so in a same-sex marriage, you never have to try and argue who's the husband, who's the wife. We just seem to accept that gender classification. 2 men are husbands. 2 women are wives. Whatever that means. And with all the different gender classification, this is why we just have to have 1 washroom. Well, of course, depending on the venue size, but you know what I mean. If we've got 10 or 11 or 12 different genders, you can't have 10 or 11, 12 different washrooms in one venue. 1 washroom, multiple cubicles for privacy. And anyone who needs to go uses that room. What's the problem? And the cubicles are for privacy, not because of your gender, but because of what you're doing in there. Nobody needs to see that. I'm a male with a penis. I've spent a lot of time in public places peeing in a room with a row of other guys up against the wall. It's not pleasant. Everybody's got their thing hanging out. Hell, remember the old Maple Leaf Gardens? They used to have a trough, a circular trough. It was like a Circle P. Everyone there with their Johnson out doing their thing, doing the number one. But, if you needed to do the other and drop your pants, well, there's a private booth over there with a lock on it. It makes no sense. In a public restroom, everybody should get a booth. Do whatever you have to do in there with whatever body part you have or don't have. Wash your hands in the sink and then get out. There's only 1 or 2 bathrooms at home. Everybody uses that. Since when did performing a necessary bodily function at a public place become a gender culture issue? Well, I guess since, ladies' room and men's room, but that was then. This is now. Well, I'll get my head out of the toilet. Back to marketing. Patience instead of pride, fewer letters. Those are some of my thoughts, suggestions, if you like. But now let's return to corporate. I've been to Pride events in my city over many years. Always a blast. I stopped going to the parade, though. Too long and too crowded. But the street party in the gay village, always fun. And here's a shocker. All the times I went to Pride, I never once thought, hey, I should turn gay. And by the way, gay village is what they call it in my city. It's not the LGBTQ2SIA plus LGHDTVLCBO village. Certainly that would be more accurate. It's just called Gay Village. And over the years, I've seen this increasing corporate presence at the street events. TD Bank, Crest, all kinds of beverage companies, on and on and on. They have signage, sampling booths, free handouts, sign-up tents. It's like way back when they all had this marketing meeting. Hey, I hear that gay people brush their teeth. Can anybody else confirm that, by the way? That's what I've heard. So maybe we should be a part of that? Bam! Crest booth at Pride Week. Based on this, by the way, theoretically, Catholics should not be using Crest anymore. People in the Pride community should not take the corporate involvement as any kind of cultural support or acceptance. Hey, take the money. I don't care. But understand that corporate marketing strategy is all about divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. What do I mean? Well, divide. Divide us humans into subgroups. Male, female, old, young, teens, tweens, middle-aged, urban, suburban, rural, income level, ethnicity, relationship status, education, height, weight, so on and so on. Gender identity and then sexual preferences are seen by corporate as simply another category to market at. And they see that this community, the Pride community, for various reasons, has organized into a movement and created multiple events to celebrate the movement. Well, you just made it easier for corporate. They don't even have to do the research anymore, find out who you are or what you like. They just have to show up and sell you their product based on the idea that their mere presence shows tolerance, which then will predispose you to avail yourself of their product or service. Because they're gay-friendly, L-friendly, Q-friendly. As long as you're one of those letters, they like to lump you into a group and market the hell out of you. It's just about that. Evidence is, as soon as many corporations, Bud Light, Target, others, are called out on this, they back right off. Well, we don't support, we support, but we don't say, we're not saying, we're just, They got in only because they figured out the multi-lettered, multi-numbered, multi-gendered community is worth $900 billion annually. They wanted a bigger piece of that pie. Otherwise, they have no cultural or ethical commitment. Bud Light got so worried about customers they might be losing, they took their focus off customers that they might have gained. I guess a musician firing an assault rifle at Bud cans scared them more than a rainbow flag. Have you ever heard about the concept of corporate personhood? It's a real thing. It's U.S. Supreme Court rulings that say a company can be like a person. It's been in the news lately, but it goes back well over 100 years. Corporations wanted and were given personhood status so that they, like any person, would be treated equally under the law. Also, so that they could pay taxes, they could sue, be sued, be subject to laws, and have rights just like you and me, flesh and blood persons. It's called corporate personhood. As bizarre as this might sound, corporate personhood goes further to say that money is speech, i.e., U.S. First Amendment, free speech. They are allowed to spend money as they see fit. Note that there are many groups, even recent ones, that want this personhood classification repealed. And it wouldn't even have to be the Supreme Court. It could just be by legislation. Over the years, it has become clear that corporate persons have actually gained more rights than the real flesh and blood people. It's true. So bringing this around, corporate involvement in the Pride community purely for profit has caused a violent, vocal minority to stir up trouble, not only for the company, but for Pride events around the world. People have become emboldened to physically disrupt Pride events. Not only that, around the United States right now, there are over 500 bills being proposed in the state legislatures that would claw back rights given to the LGBTQ plus community. A group called Human Rights Campaign recently declared a state of emergency for LGBTQ plus Americans. As an ally, I'm questioning whether I should go to any events this year because some serious trouble may break out. And if I do go, I'll be looking over my shoulder constantly. And the Pride community is probably saying, yeah, well, welcome to our world, fair weather ally. And I get that. Didn't say I wasn't going. I'm also saying that the corporate involvement is helping to fuel this issue because they don't see the community as anything but a profit sector. And they're not willing to back up their marketing involvement with investments in safety. Shame on you, corporate person. You want legal status as a person? Act like one. Stop trying to profit on all of your rainbow bathing suits and beer cans. You want to show support? How about you have a more inclusive hiring practice? Create a safer and more tolerant workplace. A corporate culture that's less corporate and more compassionate. And for those actual flesh and blood people tearing down the Target displays and shooting up the beer cans, well, hopefully you will all end up in Florida, and then we can build the wall.
That's weird. What the hell is Goofy?
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.